people because Paula and I were too.
Clock on the wall says 7 p.m., so we'll have council begin. Good evening, councilors, staff, the press, television, and online viewers in Blind River. I would like to recognize in the spirit of reconciliation that the town of Blind River is located on Robinson Huron territory. We recognize Mississauga First Nation as well as the Métis. Prior to beginning this evening's agenda, I would ask each councillor who is present via this video conferencing to answer the roll call when I call your name. Deputy Mayor Summers.
Present.
Councillor B. Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor J. Dunbar.
I am present.
And I'll go on to Councillor Roy.
Present.
Councillor Posterero.
Present.
And Councillor Wells.
I'm present.
Thank you. I've mentioned before that spring is in the air, but so is the garbage along the sides of our highways and throughout our community. I'd like to encourage everyone to take a bag on your evening walks and help in making Blind River even more beautiful. It's actually a good feeling knowing that you're contributing to a cleaner Blind River. The residents of each of the communities have done incredibly well to respond to the community safety and well-being survey so far. The more results received, the more data the working group and partnering organizations have to develop a plan to serve our residents. I would like to propose a friendly wager for bragging rights. The working group has an aggressive goal of 40% resident participation. That would be roughly 900 completing surveys from Blind River. I would encourage our Blind River residents to complete the survey, and a link for that survey can be found on Blind River's homepage at blindriver.ca or from the poster in the weekly newsletter. Remember, more than one person per household can do the survey, and we really want to hear from you. Well, we're seeing the variants of COVID-19 are more contagious than the original virus, and it's hitting people harder. There is hope. More vaccines will be arriving in the weeks to come, and as we're able to vaccinate more individuals, this hope will grow. When you are eligible, please do not delay. If you can help other people get vaccinated, please do it. Help them book an appointment. Help them get to an appointment. The third wave is here, and it's being driven by variants of COVID, or VOCs. These variants are circulating in our communities right now, and they can spread rapidly. All public health measures to prevent COVID-19 transmission continue to apply to the new variants. We can't let our guard down. We have to follow the measures due to the higher risk of transmission in the VOCs. VOCs have made COVID-19 not only more transmissible, but also more dangerous. Younger Ontarians are ending up in hospital, and our health system's ability to deal with the new cases is being affected. We have to protect our community to stop the surge from overwhelming our local hospital and our frontline care workers. This starts by carefully following the public health measures. Stay 2 meters apart from anyone you do not live with. And if someone in your household develops symptoms, they should get tested right away. And until the results are received, they and everyone else in that household must stay at home. Avoid non-essential travel or receiving visitors, especially from other communities. And if you have a student who will be returning home from college or university, plan ahead. Ask them to avoid risky or close contact exposures 14 days before they travel. Postpone travel if they become sick. And in case of need to quarantine or isolate because of exposure to the illness, have a plan and arrange a safe place to do so, ideally with a separate bedroom or a bathroom. There is a flood of information being shared online about COVID-19. People are sharing new information as fast as they can, and it might be with good intentions, but it also could be inaccurate. The best information is fact-based, science-informed data that is based on Canadian research and sources that are relevant to our community. Pandemic fatigue can affect us all, and we know that staying up to date and engaged can be draining. Please visit Algoma Public Health's website for accurate and factual information Let's all work together, Blind River. We can stop the surge, and I know you'll be with me in helping make sure we eradicate this virus. Now, without further ado, turning to tonight's agenda, I have a motion from Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Dunbar, B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council approve the agenda and the closed meeting agenda as presented. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none and receiving none, I move on for the motion for the adoption of the previous meeting minutes. Moved by Councillor J. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Wells. Be it resolved that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 15th, 2021 as presented. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And is there any business that council wishes to discuss from that meeting minutes? And seeing none, we'll move on. We have no public presentations. So moving on to 9.1, we have a management report and a project status update. I wonder if council has any questions on this report. Councillor Summers?
I have just a comment. On these reports, it's hard to tell what's been changed when you're going through it. And I was wondering if it would be possible to have, whenever the report has been changed, if someone could, whoever is doing it could either highlight it or do it into different colors, sort of like what Karen has been doing with one of the reports that we're using from our committee there. It just makes it really difficult to go through it and figure out if stuff has been changed or not.
Okay. And are there any other comments? Thank you for that, Councillor Summers. Moving on to 9.2, I have a motion from Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor Pastorero. Be it resolved that council accept the new water source delegation request report by Katie Scott, our CAO clerk, and that the new water source delegation be delayed until further investigation and reports are available. Questions, comments? Councillor J. Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few comments with a couple of questions. The alternative water source and wastewater expansion has been a priority of council since the day you asked all councillors for a vision board. I believe you and council know what my priority was pertaining to that. The vision to see the town grow its commercial, industrial business, and further residential subdivisions will be based on whether we lay down the footings to build on. And these footings I'm talking about are the alternative water source and a wastewater expansion project. Having a water plant running at only 1/3 its capacity due to our existing well water sources, and with all the maintenance and disinfecting involved with this source of water, doesn't bode well for the future for commercial and residential growth. I believe it'd be disappointing to say that we had to say no to a new commercial motel or a planned subdivision project because we weren't equipped to handle further large demands for water and wastewater. Now, with all that being said, Madam Mayor, a couple of questions pertaining to the 9.2, the actual water source delegation request, that the way it was written, it says, it states in the background, our 5-year financial plan for water has not been completed. And this plan will be relevant to discussions for any funding we apply for, in the future. And it also states council is going to have to put serious consideration into the water rates if they are to have a successful presentation. Okay, here lies my questions. To what extent are we talking about raising the water rates to provide for a successful presentation? And can the residents of town afford a rate hike for a successful presentation? Those are my two questions, but I would like maybe some more information, if possible, to come back to council, be provided to council with information, once the preliminary work is done on the cost of the entire project. I would really like to see what kind of percentage in the water rates it would take to see the alternative water source come into fruition. So basically, the two questions to administration is how much are we talking about, or are we waiting yet to see what our project's going to cost us?
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. I will defer your questions or put them over to Ms. Scott for an answer or a possible answer. It might also be a we'll get back to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Dunbar. Those are good questions. Those are all questions that we are working towards finding the answers to. Firstly, we do have a water plan, a financial plan. When the plan is complete as per the regulation, it is to be submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. And the reason for that is because they view that plan when they are looking at the grants that we submit for any of our waters. So all of the grants, it doesn't matter who we submit it through, if it's the Ministry of Infrastructure, they still go to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs to take a look at what we have and what our reserves are, what our FIRs are saying, and what our financial plan is saying. Unfortunately, previous councillors have not followed the financial plan with regard to the water rates, so we are lagging behind. What this council needs is to have a reserve and to have some sort of a base to take for the project. What's been happening over the years is that and the tax base to complete the water infrastructure projects. That should not be happening. The residents who are not part of the water system or the sewer system should not be funding that service for the users. So those are things that we're taking into account, that we're looking at. We have the number of users. We've actually are posting the RFP for the 5-year water plan tomorrow. So we'll have a costing back from the consultants at that point to complete that project on behalf of the municipality. So we'll have more information with the financial plan once that closes and comes back to us. We anticipate the date for that to be in September. We have to provide them enough time because they have to look at our infrastructure to base. So there's a formula. They look at the infrastructure, what we can sustain, what we are currently sustaining, and where we need to go. That will tie into as well the engineering. So as I've stated before, we were working with SEMA to handle that proposal. The initial proposal that came back, we have sent back to them to sharpen their pencils and come back to us with a new amount. The first initial amount from SEMA was $700,000 to do the review. That's well out of council and our budget as to what we are anticipating that number would be at. So we are working with Telek Engineering to obtain a better pricing on that proposal. For that proposal, they will also look at our wells to evaluate the wells versus the fresh water. So we do know roughly that that's going to take some time to come back to us. I'm hoping to have something by the end of next week from SEMA with a better pricing on what we need. And maybe we're going to spread it out over a couple of years to do that proposal and that work. So those are two pieces of it. The other piece of that is that I am currently working on to have the background information, how many lots within the community are available to be serviced. So can the current water source that we have sustain the available buildable lots that we have that have not yet been developed? As you know, we're selling a lot of lots. So we have to undertake a full study as to what lots are available to be built on. Some that are still vacant privately or owned by the town, may not ever be built on. And that's a review that we're doing a deep dive on. So that will be coming as well within the next couple of months to council. So you're going to be given a lot of information in the next few months to review and to take into consideration of how we move forward. So there's a lot of decisions that council will have to make with regard to the water rates. Increasing the water rate is inevitable. We will not be able to sustain the service and the infrastructure that is required. We know that we have low pressure. We know that the resolve to that is a higher standpipe, and that isn't an endeavor that is cheap either. So you're looking at $500,000 for a new standpipe, roughly starting at, which would increase pressure. From there, the increased pressure is going to cause pressure on our old infrastructure pipes. So that's another piece that council has to consider. So there's a lot of pieces and moving parts to this. So it's not a simple, yes, this is happening. No, this isn't happening. There's a lot of pieces that we're working on to bring forward to council so that you're well informed for the decision on moving forward. And these are all questions that will be part of any funding that we apply for.
Thank you very much, Katie. Well answered.
And are there any other questions on this motion? Councillor Pastorero?
And I guess my question is also probably to administration. So with this delay of the delegation, and I definitely understand, and knowing politics, you want to have a firm ask with all of the information to back it up. Otherwise, it's not going to be even looked at. So with this delay of delegation, will there be opportunity throughout the year outside of AMO to potentially have these kind of discussions with the provincial government? And obviously, if not, then next year's AMO, we'd be aiming to shoot for a really substantial delegation.
I believe that we also have an opportunity through Roma, and I will defer the other part of your question to Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. To answer your question, Councillor Pastorero, yes, if the opportunity arises, we absolutely will be speaking with the ministry. We do and have put it on the radar of municipal affairs, so they are aware that we are looking into this possibility for the community. So they're well aware of that, as is the Ministry of the Environment. They also are aware that we are looking at this as well. So we have, let it be known that this is a project that we are working diligently towards, and that it is something that is a top priority of council.
And seeing no other hands going up on this motion. Oh, Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. If we're not going to be seeking delegate status at the AMO conference this year, and since we're looking at a virtual conference once again, and I do recall when you reported to council after the AMO conference last year, I think you felt it was less than satisfactory because it was just a virtual conference. Are we still going to even consider having representation at the AMO conference this year?
I believe I can answer that question for you, Councillor Wells. At this time, we are not considering going to the AMO conference. If this situation should change with a delegation opportunity coming up, then we would reconsider. But at this point, I would say no. Are there any other questions on the or discussions? Councillor Pastorero.
Sorry, I'm just confused because part of our resolution is sending you and Councillor Dunbar to the AMO conference.
If you refresh your screen, you probably will see an update on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, yeah, and it is a good idea to refresh your screens because there were some updates put on our agenda later today. So just a heads up. All right, we're ready for a vote on this motion. I will read it again because it was a while back that I read it. Be it resolved that council accept the new water source delegation request report by Ms. Scott, CAO clerk, and that a new water source delegation be delayed until further investigation and reports are available. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And we have a motion on the Leisure Bay Road for zoning. This is moved by Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council grant relief from section 4.18.5 of the Comprehensive Land Use Zoning Bylaw 16-49 for the property owner located at 26 Longview Avenue to permit a reduction in the minimum setback allowance from the high water mark for a dwelling to be 28.04 meters, where 30 meters is required, and that council hereby authorize a rear yard setback of 6.8 meters, where 7.5 meters is required. Questions, discussion? Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering, I noticed on a couple of these tonight, we have, we're reducing setbacks from the high water mark, and I'm just wondering what kind of liability that the town might be in if there was a flood, because we're reducing it. We're allowing these people to build closer to water when the high water mark is already established. So just a question.
And I'll defer your question to Ms. Scott.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so for this particular property, they are not building closer to the water. They're building slightly back from closer to the road, and they're building higher. So they're asking for a change, a slight increase to the height restrictions, and they're building back away from the water. So it's increasing the square footage of the area, but it's not going closer to the water.
But on the other one, we do have a water setback, high water, that we're getting closer. I
But
thought
for
that
this one, this particular one, they're moving back.
Might be easier if we're dealing with the one motion at a
Yeah, I know,
time.
but I thought that they were both the same, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry about that. I thought they were both
Sorry?
had same, she is maintaining the high water mark, yeah. Okay, we'll wait till the next one for my question then. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other concerns on this motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And then on to 9.4, the Leisure Bay Road variance. This motion was moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council grant relief from section 4.18.5 of the Comprehensive Land Use Zoning Bylaw 16-49 for the property owner located at 451G Leisure Bay Road to expand the legal non-conforming seasonal dwelling by the reconstruction of the approximately 113 square meters ground floor area with approximately 139 square meters ground floor area and 239 square meters gross floor area structure with a height of 5.6 meters, maintaining a minimum of 8.1 meter setback to the high water mark. Discussion. Ms. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Madam Mayor, through you. The initial one, I thought you had said it was for Leisure Bay. Was the
Yes.
first one we were speaking for Leisure Bay?
Yes.
Okay, so the second one is for Longview.
Oh, the first one was for Longview, 9.3, and 9.4 is Leisure Bay Road.
Okay, so to clarify for Longview, the front of the house faces the water, the rear of the house faces the street. So the addition was going off of that. So there was only a small setback at the rear yard, which is facing the street for Longview. And then for the Leisure Bay property, it is being built onto the back, which is closer to the road and to the water.
And does that answer council's questions? Seeing no hands going up. All in favor, Ms. Scott?
I would just like to add that these have all been reviewed by our planner, and reviewed with the provincial policy statement as it relates to the water and the watermark. So they have all been peer reviewed and all have been sent for comments from all ministries as well as neighbors, and no comments were received.
Thank you for that update. Councillor Roy?
I think that my question was that when we do allow for a closer to the high water mark, how does that affect the town as far as liability? And one of these is closer. I don't know. You confuse me with front and rear, and the front is on the water now. But anyways, that was the question. How does it? Is there any liability to us should that property flood?
So those again have all been reviewed by our planner to understand how that would affect, and all of these constructions are being constructed farther away from the water setback because it's at the back, the rear.
Councillor Wells, did you have a question? No, okay, thank you. Councillor Summers?
Katie, I think Councillor Roy was just wondering if it came to that case that we were looking at maybe letting them build a little bit closer to the water. Is there like some sort of an agreement that we would enter into with the people so that if there was flooding, we would not be held liable? I think that's just more of what he was wondering.
No, there is no agreement for the flooding. That's understood by them, and it has been reviewed by all of the ministries as well. So they have the opportunity at that point to say if there's going to be flooding. Again, as these are being built closer to the road than they are to the water, the current structure is already where it is at the water level. So that was already built and was built there. The one for Leisure Bay was built many years ago. I can check with our planner for any future builds that may be closer to the water, if there's any liability to the town, or if there is agreements that I can bring back at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Great. And all in favor of this motion? And thank you, that's carried. We have a report from the Deputy Clerk on accessible document remediation software. And I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor Summers. Whereas Council is committed to ensuring that the municipal webpage content is accessible for all, and whereas a document remediation software package is required to enable staff to remediate documents for posting while ensuring all documents are remediated efficiently and accurately, therefore be it resolved that Council authorize the purchase of AbleDoc software to remediate documents for online posting in the amount of $15,797.40, and that the funds be transferred from the future project reserve. Discussion, questions, comments? Councillor Pastorero.
I think I'm just in sticker shock looking at the price of that for software for, I'm trying to understand what is this software going to do that would merit such a price tag?
And we can direct your question to our Deputy Clerk, Councillor, or Deputy Clerk Walsh. Council, can you hear?
So this software, the initial buy-in includes the purchase of software for Word and PDF and training for staff. So what it will do is when in Word, when you save a document as a PDF, we are thinking we have then made it accessible, but that is not true. We have to add alt text, we have to have tags, we have to have headings. So this software is going to flag those errors so we can then fix them before posting. And then the training that's going to come with it is going to permit staff to be able to build a better document from the start. So when we do a check, we will have less changes to make, either a Word or a PDF file that we get. And then there's another piece, if we got a large document like our auditor's report, which is hundreds of pages, we could try to remediate it ourselves as far as we could get it and then flip it to them to finish the trickier sections, if you will.
Counselor Postrero, does that help answer your question?
A tiny bit, but it also promotes a new one. So if this is the initial cost, what is the annual cost going to be for this software to maintain it? It just seems quite expensive, as we have just invested in eScribe to the tune of over $30,000. And I know that we definitely need accessibility. I'm just trying to comprehend what the price tag of all these new additional softwares are going to be yearly.
So for 2022, we would be looking at $7,322. So I would expect somewhere around there going forward with inflation.
Ms. Scott?
I just wanted to add through you, Madam Mayor, that this is to enable people to who cannot see to be able to hold their mouse over the screen and have it talk to them, basically. So this is for hearing impaired as well, and to enable all of the other accessibility options into this. We are not able to do that with any of the systems that we have, and the fine for municipalities is $100,000 for every time that you are in breach of this fine. If we are going to be accessible, this is unfortunately, it's a cost to that. It's a software upgrade that we have no way around. We don't have the capabilities to create these documents. And every document we have has to be accessible.
Counselor Postrero?
Sorry, one more supplementary. So with that, because we are striving towards accessibility and equity, does it also have the ability to translate it into multiple languages? I know that there's going to be another resolution that's coming up later in the evening. So if we are striving for equity, is it something that could do that kind of feature as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor, at this point, no. I'm not saying that their developers could not come up with a module, but right now that's not part of the package.
And are there any other questions? Counselor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I'm not objecting to the purchase of the software. I think it's important that we maintain our ability to be accessible to all users. But just so that I understand this, so that we're looking at an initial purchase of $15,700 for the actual software and an annual fee of $7,000. That's for the license renewal, support, and upgrades as needed. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any money available through, I forget the organization, Accessible Organization, to help support the purchase of such software, or does it all have to be purchased from the tax base?
We have not found funding available yet.
And seeing no other hands going up, I would ask council to raise your hands if you are in favor of this motion. All in favor? And that's unanimous and that's carried. Thank you. And thank you very much, Pam, for presenting that. We have an information item on the community safety and well-being plan from the working group. And as you heard me say in the mayor's address tonight, we're encouraging everyone to go forward from your iPhone, from your regular phone, from your computer. More than one person per family can fill out that survey. And as I said, I We are challenging everyone to get 900 surveys in. That would be absolutely fabulous. So I'm sure council has completed the survey, as I'm sure your families have as well. And are there any questions on this community well-being survey and the plan itself? And seeing none, we can move on then. We have an information item from the treasurer on the 2020 council remuneration. Are there any comments, questions from council on this topic? Councillor Postrero.
More of a comment, just because when this is posted, sometimes it can get misinterpreted in the media. As I know it was in Sault Ste. Marie. The most expensive counselor is, and the lay public may not understand that the reason the price tags are for conferences, so like the travel expense, is actually the fee that we have to pay to go to AMO or Roma, etc. So just with an understanding that when people see the remuneration, it includes conferences and doesn't necessarily mean some counselors are paid more than others.
That's a good point. Thank you for that. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, moving on to 9.8, again from our treasurer, we have an update on the asset management plan. Are there any questions for our treasurer, Sue Dent? And seeing none, we have a motion from the Director of Facilities and Community Services on return to play. This motion is moved by Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor Summers. Be it resolved that council approve the return of the Blind River Minor Baseball Association and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as per Ontario COVID-19 response framework, and that both groups liaise with the town staff to ensure appropriate staging measures are in place that promote distancing during the 2021 season. Discussion. Councillor Roy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to commend the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I can't believe the gym's not on that, but I see that they actually put out some cash and they're buying the peg work, whatnot, to hang their equipment, and that's nice to see that a user group actually gives back to the community, and it'll help everybody that uses that facility. So that's great. So yeah, I'm all in favor. Great.
Great, thank you for that. Are there any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you for this report, and all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. On the service delivery review status, we have an information update as of April 2021. On the recommendations, are there any questions related to 10.1? Councillor Dunbar?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a comment, and I don't mean any malice or disrespect here either. It's just on the action traction sheet, page 1, the update potential courses of action pertaining to number 30. 31, the invoices. If I believe correctly, council passed in an open meeting a resolution contrary to this update course of action. And I expect that council resolution passed in open council trumps any course of action that's recommended by KPMG. And I'm looking forward, hopefully maybe at the end of this year, to get my hands on these invoices once again. So it's just a comment. I don't need an answer on that. I just wanted to bring that to someone or the administration's attention over this, what's it called, updated potential course of action that's laid out here on this sheet. And if I'm wrong, please correct me.
And Ms. Scott is going to answer your question, Councillor Dunbar.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, council did pass that in open council, and that resolution does stand. However, when we do councillor training, that is a piece that the municipal act does say that it is operational and it is not for council to review. So there may be something that comes out of the councillor training with our new integrity commissioner, but that can be left. But currently, that resolution does stand.
Just a counter reply on that, then as far as I see it, it would take a new resolution of council to change that, or a new council, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on 10.1? Moving forward to 10.2 from the CAO clerk, governance restructuring opportunity. I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Whereas the service delivery review conducted by KPMG recommended a reduction in the number of council members. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorize the creation of a survey to gather public input on the reduction of council members for the 2022 municipal election. Questions, discussion? Councillor Pastorero?
Well, first off, I'd like to say it's awkward talking about this motion because it involves all of us. And so at the beginning, when it's conflict of interest or pecuniary interest, you may not have any councillors voting on this, because essentially, if anyone has the aspiration to run again for the next council, this would impact them. But I know that when KPMG originally had this recommendation that we reduce the numbers, and I think the number that was thrown out there was about 4, the reduction of 2 staff to the equivalent of $22,000. My caution would be the voices that we would lose at the table, and that the perspectives of multiple demographics, generations are very valuable at the table. So with a very limited council of 4, with the mayor proceeding over those councillors, I think it would move to more towards an oligarchy than a democracy. I think that would be too limiting. I know this resolution is just asking for public opinion, but I don't think the average citizen understands the amount of work that goes into being a councillor, and all the committees and boards and things that people would have to sit on. And I believe that if it was reduced to, say, for example, 4, those councillors, that would then be pretty much a full-time job. With the collapse of the committee structure and being only councillors now, for the most part, on those committees, those 4 people would have to be on every single committee and board. So I think it would be quite taxing for future councillors. That being said, I would like more of a democratic system with more voices being reflected, and for $11,000 per councillor, citizens should know that they are getting their money's worth out of every councillor that comes to this job.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I agree with Councillor Pastorero in terms of her comment about diversity at the table. However, at the end of the day, regardless of the number of councillors or number of people seeking seats at the table or the number of seats available, ultimately depends upon the people who seek election and the voters who choose to elect a diverse council. Like, ultimately, that's where the power lies. With regard to the survey, I think the survey is an excellent idea. We already have the community well-being survey in circulation on the website. Now we have the surplus land survey that is asking for input. And I think it's a good idea that we also ask for input from the community with regard to the number of seats. I think when we make that survey available to the public, though, it should be clear that it's a recommendation through the service delivery review, and that, as the service delivery review pointed out, there would probably be a total saving of about $21,000 with regard to the elimination of 2 seats. And as Councillor Passero pointed out, if there were only 4 councillors instead of 6, it would increase the workload of the councillors at the table. And as we can see from the remuneration, and as I think during a recent council meeting, our treasurer pointed out, to contradict some rumors that were circulating in the community, the council has not had an increase in remuneration, and I believe it was 4 years. So, but I do believe that as part of the democratic process, I think it's a good idea to seek input from the community. And I hope that we will well publicize this survey to make sure that we have a good response from the community itself.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Summers.
I just wanted to reiterate what Councillor Pastoraro had said. I think she made a lot of good points there. As far as remuneration for council, there has not been a raise since I've been here. So that's been over probably almost 7 years. And I'm not too sure when before that it had happened as well. So it's been a long time. And I totally agree that based on the number of committees that we do attend now, it would certainly make a lot more work for councillors to be doing that job. As far as 22,000 in savings in the grand scheme of things, that's a mere pittance. And I think hopefully people realize that when you look at the whole picture. I feel that definitely it's better if we have a little bit of a bigger group. You get better discussions. Also, like Councillor Pastoraro said, because then you have a diverse group of people that are going to be putting their 2 cents worth in. So I think as far as I'm concerned, I think it should be left the way it is. But I think for sure that the people should be able to have their say on it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Are there any other comments? Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I like what Councillor Pastoraro said as well. I think 6 councillors offer more perspective, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, when Councillor Spratt was here, I always told him the same thing. I didn't always agree with what he said, but I respected his opinion. And sometimes his opinion may have changed mine, right? I think that $21,000 is pretty cheap for 2 councillors. We just spent what, $15,000 on a new software. There's $7,200 on per year on that. We spent $30,000 on eScribe. It's to connect the community. I understand that. And it's to help us do our job better. But for us to go down to 4 councillors, whether I'm there or not, I think that 4 councillors, you could have a henpecked or no, pardon my language, not henpecked, but more, maybe all 4 are going the same direction. And if all 4 are going the same direction, you're not expanding your community. You need input from different people. If we're going to have the people of Blind River vote on this, then we might as well let them vote on everything and just abolish council. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a six councillors, 2 extra councillors on the committee, on the council is not going to break the town of Blind River. As well, I don't even know if it was a recommendation or just an option that was thrown at us by KPMG. Either way, I think that not everything that KPMG put out there has to be done. 21K is pretty cheap for 2 extra people who work pretty hard, I would say. As we said, there's a lot of committees, a lot of extra meetings. You know, we've had more and more meetings during the day now, special council meetings, especially now that we're on Zoom. I don't know. I wouldn't support this. Thank you.
Councillor Pastoraro, then Councillor B. Dunbar.
So just for clarification, because I'm definitely against the reduction of councillors. However, I'm not against people having their voice in a democracy. So my understanding of this is that it's just going out there for survey to get voices and that it wouldn't be binding. And then that this would come back to council ultimately for a decision. Is that an accurate interpretation of this resolution?
I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Scott for an answer to that.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. That's correct, Councillor Pastorero. And it was a recommendation, as were all of the recommendations from the service delivery review. All of the recommendations were asked to be put on the agenda under a heading so that it was a living document and could be reviewed by council. This particular recommendation couldn't come forward until this year based on the Election Act. So that's why it's on here now, and it's on here early enough because the recommendation does say that there's a potential for the community to have some negative feedback to that because they may lose their voice. So the recommendation said that we should be polling the community. So that's the reason and the rationale. Staff wouldn't be doing their duty to council when council paid $50,000 for a service delivery review if we don't bring all of the recommendations forward for council to vote on to determine whether or not you wish to follow those recommendations. There are some that we have not, that council has voted down and we are not moving forward on. And there are still some that we do want to bring forward to council. There's still some efficiencies that we are working through to bring forward. One of which was the electronic meeting so we could get away from the paper. But that being said, to reiterate the initial question is that absolutely this would go out for the voices of the community to come back and provide council with their input on the decision, on their representation and their voice at the table.
Councillor B. Dunbar, followed by Councillor J. Dunbar.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. I just want to say I support what HP said. I don't think that a smaller council would serve the purpose that we try to do as a diverse group to, for the discussion and for the workload. It just seems incomprehensible to me how 4 people could carry the same load that we're carrying now.
Thank you for that. Councillor J. Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with everything that was said here. I'll probably have a whole lot more to say when it comes up for a vote or a resolution on this. But some people have also have not touched upon the fact, and I say this jokingly, when you first get on council, it's a big learning curve. And I see administration, like sometimes like a mother hen, moving us in the right directions and helping us out and moving along. And I sure could see how it'd be a lot easier if they were only moving along, shuffling along 4 councillors than 6, because 6 could make it probably quite tiresome for administration. So I'm going to give them due credit for the work that they do with the 6 of us right now. And that's all I have to say on this.
Thank you for that. And seeing no other hands, I get to say the last word on this before it goes to a vote. I wanted you to all know that you're worth your weight in gold. And maybe the dollars don't reflect that, but I certainly know you all give 110%. And I've said it time and time again, we are so lucky to have this council. And I think that more than ever before, we are showing how transparent we are as a municipal council. And this is just one of the many examples of how we are putting it out to the people of Blind River. We want to hear their voice and we want to hear what they have to say, and what a great opportunity we have to do this. So I will put it to a vote. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? Councillor Wells, I think you're speaking, but your mic isn't on.
Sorry, there I go. I just had to find my mic. I just, for my own clarification, I guess I'm saying this, but we're not discussing this evening the modification of the number of seats at the table. We're just discussing a survey of the community to gather input.
That's correct.
So as has been said by a couple people already, it's just part of the democratic process because we're already surveying with regard to land use and community well-being. But just for the sake of clarification, I'd like to ask for a recorded vote.
You're stealing my words. I was thinking the same thing. So we'll go ahead and I will pass this motion over to our deputy clerk. Or Katie can do the recorded vote. Go ahead, Katie.
Deputy Mayor Summers,
In favor.
Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar,
Against.
Councillor Jim Dunbar,
Opposed?
Councillor Steve Wells,
In favor.
Councillor HP Roy,
I'll be opposed.
Mayor Hagman.
Uh,
Sorry, Councillor Pastorero.
In favor, just on a democratic voice.
And Mayor Hagman,
In favor.
and that's carried.
And I will- Thank you. That was a very good discussion. And moving on to presentation of community can't talk, committee reports. I have a report on the Blind River newsletter policy. This motion was moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Jay Dunbar. Whereas the Blind River weekly newsletter has become a method by which many of Blind River residents rely on for community information. And whereas the Corporate Services Committee felt that a policy was required to ensure what type of communications would be forwarded to the town, therefore be it resolved that council adopt the Blind River weekly newsletter policy as recommended by Corporate Services Committee. Discussion, questions? Councillor Pastorero?
I just had a quick question, like one of the ineligible contents was political messages. I was just wondering if this would bar just a generic thing saying go out and vote in your election, or is it pertaining to more partisan politics? Would we not be able to in our newsletter say the federal election's coming up, go vote, right? So I'm just wondering clarification on ineligibility of political messaging.
And I'll defer your question to Ms. Scott for an answer.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the basis around it was to keep it to general information in the newsletter. We do have an exception in there for elections, so we would be able to encourage voting, but it would be more for the way this is written for the municipal election rather than the federal and the provincial. If we wanted to add that or make that amendment to the policy, we can certainly do that if that is the wish of council.
I would like to make that amendment if other councillors are in agreement, just because I think it's, oh, sorry, I froze for a bit. I think it's so important to have people participate in the democratic process as we were just discussing. Every voice matters, and we can do that in a non-partisan way by just promoting general elections.
Councillor Summers?
I'm just wondering, because it does say with the exception of general notification of elections, it doesn't say municipal elections. I'm guessing that may cover all elections.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that could cover all elections. When we discussed it at the committee level, we only discussed municipal. But if that's fine, the way it's worded, we certainly could add it as long as staff is clear that it will include provincial and federal elections, but we would not want to have information from the parties going forward, just vote and here's where you can vote.
Councillor Pastorero, does that answer your question? Okay, great.
Perfectly.
Are there any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And on the surplus equipment policy, I have a motion from Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council adopt the surplus equipment policy as amended, as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Discussion? Councillor Summers, and then Councillor Wells.
sorry. Just for public knowledge, just more like housekeeping items, really. Part of the recommendation is that items will be advertised for a minimum of 30 days for any items that are going to be sold. That was, I believe, one of the things that was changed. So just for the public's knowledge.
Right. Thank you for that. Councillor Wells.
I was going to make the same point, Mayor Hagman. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on this motion? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Pastorero, sorry.
Just a quick question. With that addition of the advertisement for a minimum of 30 days, that doesn't bar it being sold before that 30 days then? Or do bidders have to wait that 30 days before the successful bid is received?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Pastorero, the bid would close after the 30 days and we would have it posted on the bid when the opening would be, and that would be following the date of closing. And we would open the envelopes based on the date that's on, the date and time that's on the envelope as they were received.
Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe I've probably brought up questioning this surplus policy last meeting. I'm glad to see that you've addressed the 30-day minimum. My one question is, if an individual was to call in and ask, what did the bid go for? To know if my bid was sufficient or enough. Is there any information to that, or is that same as a status quo? We've always had this implemented that we could call in, because I mean, I like to know where I was in the ballpark if that's possible.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we do keep a tally sheet of the bids, times we open them, who was in the room when we opened them. And that information is shared with members of the public when they do call in. We do receive calls.
Okay, great. Thanks, Katie.
Councillor Pastorero.
Sorry for the supplemental question. With the 30 days, is that standard? It seems like quite a long time if we wanted to divest ourselves of something sooner. Is 30 days the norm? Because I would see something more like 2 weeks would be, say, for example, we want to get rid of that tower and someone's like, I want it and I want it now. They have to wait a whole month. It seems like a long time.
And Ms. Scott, have you got an answer on that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure if Councillor Wells wanted to comment on that, or
Councillor Wells, were you wanting to ask a question on that or comment on
I
Councillor?
was actually
Pastero's?
going to comment. I don't know if the clerk would like to comment first or allow me to comment.
Your screen is lit up, so you have the floor.
All right. I think when we were discussing this at the committee, and I'm just speaking for myself here, but I think 30 days is a reasonable amount of time, because most of these surplus items are going to be publicized on the website. And it may take people a few days to learn that there's something actually available on the website so that they can look to see that there is an offer there. Sometimes we won't be obviously using the newsletter to publicize this, because we're looking at the newsletter for nonprofit. And we are trying to divest ourselves of property that was purchased with tax dollars. So we want to ensure that we sell these items for a reasonable amount so that the taxpayers of the community will get some return on their investment. And 30 days enables people to consider what's being offered, to maybe ask some questions about the item before they submit their closed bid. So I think if we shorten the time period too much, then there's always the danger that something will be posted and sold before an interested party even gets a chance to submit an offer.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Jay Dunbar, did you have a comment?
No, Councillor Wells said it all for me. Thank you.
And Ms. Scott, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
no, Councillor Wells answered that. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And 11.1.3, the out of office notification policy. Moved by Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council adopt the out of office notification policy as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. You can tell that the Corporate Services Committee was very busy, as was the staff putting together the policies and the amendments to the policy. 11.1.4, the cell phone policy amendment, moved by Councillor Fosterero, seconded by Councillor Summers. Be it resolved that council adopt the corporate cell phone policy as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Discussion, questions? Councillor J. Dunbar, then Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a good policy. I'm just wondering, I guess one question would be, like, have we just recently purchased a bunch of phones for the employees of the Township of Blind River? And does this pertain to the, does this policy pertain to councillors' privilege with their participating with taxpayers? Would my taxes be viewed with constituents of Blind River?
I will pass your question on to Ms. Scott for an answer, and then Councillor Summers has the floor next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To answer your question, Councillor Dunbar, no, the text messaging would not be shared. Possibly there could be a freedom of information request, which we've had in the past in some cases, but we have not shared the text messages. Those are on your phone. However, anything that you use your phone for is the property of the municipality and could be called into a freedom of information inquiry or hearing as evidence, or in the event that something should happen and the municipality was brought into court for some reason, all text, as are emails, anything that regards to digital information is the property of the town, which is why we always stress, make sure that you're only using your phone for personal or for work use and for municipal use, that they are purchased through the taxpayers of Blind River and they essentially belong to the corporation. So we have to just ensure that we're following freedom of information legislation and that everyone is well aware of that when it comes to the use of your phone. And no, there has not been a large purchase of phones. We did have the new program with our HR, and this was one of the recommendations to upgrading the policy.
Just to follow up. So you may or may not know, I sometimes send in photos to you, and I receive sometimes calls from out of town, from individuals. And I've always come forward and I said, if there was any overcharges, I'd be more than happy to pick up. So I believe if anybody ran into any of this type of problem, they would be made aware of this here and they could pay up the differences.
That's correct. And we did discuss that at the Corporate Services Committee as well, if there was large amounts of overages, but they've been covered through our plan to date. But the treasurer does keep an eye on the bills for that reason.
Very good. Thanks, Katie.
Councillor Summers.
I think that just the question that I had was something about that the cell phone could be taken without our consent kind of thing. So that would be in the case of freedom of information, right? Like there would have to be a reason in order for you to say that you would want to have a look at the cell phone. There would have to be some sort of something would have come forward that would cause this, right? Like you're not just going to all of a sudden say, oh, I want to look at your cell phone and see what you've been up to. Correct? I mean, not that I'm worried that I'm doing anything wrong, but I think just from the freedom of information for our own use of it as well, that we would be protected as well, correct?
So through you, Madam Mayor, that's absolutely correct. The Freedom of Information Act is very clear on what can and cannot be called by the information or the head of information for the municipality. And at no time do I want to just pull individual cell phones. There has to be a reason, there has to be a rationale for that, and there has to be a very good rationale for that legally. So you are protected legally as well. So no, at no time would I just pull an employee's phone and demand to see what's on it. I would have to have very good reason for that, or a request from the Privacy Commissioner.
Councillor
Thank you.
Pastorero, and then Councillor Wells.
Sorry, I'm going to play a bit of a devil's advocate, as I usually do, chief negotiating for, as the privacy states, we are waiving our right to any privacy on that phone. The company does not need any reason, as it's here in the privacy statement. The company will have access to all the information that is stored on the phone without the employee's consent. The company will have access to all calls, text messages, logs, any third-party social media applications installed on the device, etc., files, folders, anything you have on that phone. So that means, for example, if you have Facebook, Twitter, anything on your public phone, they have access at any point in time for no reason at all. That is what the privacy statement is saying. So we are waiving our right to privacy because it is a company-owned asset. So therefore, any data that is on that phone is at the leisure of the town to access.
Is that a lawyer's opinion?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Information and Privacy Commission is very clear, and so is the Municipal Act, very clear, that your devices that you have are not yours. They are the municipalities. They are the property of the municipalities. This has gone to courts many, many times. And when you go to any training for counselor training, some of that training is going to be very scary as to what they tell you you can and cannot have. So you want to make sure that you do not have Facebook, Instagram tied to your personal phone. I myself carry 2 phones. I do not mix business and personal. Those are 2 separate things. When I'm working for the municipality, I'm 100% working for the municipality, not intertwining those accounts unless it's a municipal Facebook account. So that's a different situation. And just to state one that's very close to home, when the mall collapsed in Elliott Lake, all of their cell phones were confiscated. So all of that information became public information. So it's to warn you as well, you need to be careful that what you're using on municipally owned electronics, that you're keeping as your council information, and we aren't sharing it because I'm not going to come after your phone unless we have a criminal investigation or something very, very clearly has gone wrong with that device. But I may not have a choice if the information commissioner tells me that I need to provide that information. We have gone through this before. We were able to litigate, and we were able to not have to provide the cell phone information in the previous case. But it could happen, and this is just a policy that protects all of us. I know that council does not do this with their phones, but it is a protection just in the event that the Privacy Commission does come and say we want to see what that information is.
Councillor Summers, followed by Councillor Pastorero, followed by Councillor Wells. No, Councillor Summers has had her question answered. Councillor Pastorero, then Councillor Wells.
My question would be then, does this not also pertain to our iPads that we've received? So would there be a separate policy, or should it not just be tacked onto here as well?
Through you, Mayor Hagman, that's a great question. And there is a policy coming for our iPads and any laptops as well as covering all of your emails. So there is a separate policy, and it is coming forward at the next corporate services meeting.
Thank you. And Councillor Wells?
I'm looking forward to seeing the new policy with regard to the tablets. just recalling council training from the past, there are other benefits here too. That if we use our municipal phones for municipal business, all municipal business is conducted on the municipal phone. Once we start transferring documents from our municipal phone to our personal devices, let's say I wanted a printed document on my own from my own personal computer, then that opens up the possibility that through freedom of information, people would want to have access not only to my municipal phone, but to my personal devices too. So it provides protection as well for us using the municipal phones for municipal business.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't see a problem here with it. I mean, you're not in shady websites and you're not downloading apps that you shouldn't be have on. I believe the only apps that we've downloaded here since has been Zoom and eScribe. And I think I have one more for the BAC committee. They used a different application. Other than that, I mean, like I said, you'd have to really have done something unlawfully for them to come at you, after you, and rightly so. They should be entitled to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. Are there any other concerns, questions? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And from our treasurer, we have a motion coming forward. It is moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Summers. Be it resolved that council adopt the electronic funds transfer policy as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And again, from the treasurer, we have a motion for iCity. This is moved by Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council authorize the CAO clerk to enter into an agreement with Paymentus to provide an online payment platform for property tax and utility bills as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Comments, questions, discussion? Councillor Pastorero?
I'm just, again, being frugal. I'm wondering about the cost that this third-party service is going to put on the town, and also the security of using a third-party payment service. Just wanting some reassurance on that.
And our treasurer is online to answer your question.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so Paymentus does have all of the proper security clearances related to being that third-party service provider to protect our payments. And there is no cost to the town for this service. All fees would be paid by the individuals making the payments. So all the credit card fees would be paid by those people making the payments.
Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just looking at the Paymentus schedule, and it says debit card 2.5%, Interact Online $1.95. So it's going to cost me money to give you money across the internet. Like, I'll just send you a check. I'll slide it under the door, and it won't cost me anything. Because like debit 2.5%. So if I have $1,000 bill, 2.5% on top of that, right? And then they're still going to charge me $1.95 fee for using my debit. That sounds like a lot, especially when people are on fixed incomes. I don't know. Can I still slide a check under the door? Is that okay?
Through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely. We will still accept checks, and we will still accept people coming to the town office to make payments. This is just one more option. We've had a number of people requesting to be able to pay by credit card. They are quite happy to pay whatever fees. They do it where they are for their own current municipalities. It's just one more option for making payments. We will not be not accepting cash or checks or people coming to make payments at the office. It's just one more way to allow people to make the payments.
Okay, well, I understand that the credit card thing, because yeah, 2.5%, I think the town's going to get charged a little bit on, because they're allowing them to spend, use a credit card, but the debit, why is the user being charged 2.5% for the debit card?
I don't have an answer for that through you, Madam Mayor. That's the payment schedule. That is what Paymentus charges. Like I said, people don't have to use it. It's just one more option. If people want to make the payments this way, they can, but they don't have to. We're not forcing anybody. Nobody has to pay this way and absorb the fees. That's not the point. It's just one more option for those who wish to use it.
But just as a follow-up, Ms. Dent, I've been paying online through my bank, and I'm not paying 2.5%. So does that mean it's not going, will it all be going through Paymentus now?
No, absolutely not. If you pay through online through your bank right now, you can continue to pay online through your bank. There's no change there at all.
Okay.
This
All
is
right.
simply to allow people to log into iCity Online, look at their bill. If they want to make a payment right away, they have that option. If they want to do it that way and pay the extra fee, they can. If they don't, they can send us a check. They can pay through online banking like they're doing now. Nothing else is changing. It's just one more option.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Posterero, followed by Councillor Jay Dunbar.
And supplementary to Councillor Roy's question, so online banking is okay, that will still be there. I also pay my taxes through an e-transfer. Will that service still be available, or will I have to use Paymentus? Is e-transfer through info@BlindRiver still available?
Every current method of making payments to the town will remain. This is simply one more way to let people pay their bills. We're not taking any other payment methods away.
Awesome.
Everything is still the same.
And this is a no-cost feature for the town.
No
It's-
cost to the town.
If people want to use it, they can use it.
They can use it if they want. If they don't want to use it, they don't have to. They can continue to make payments the way they always have.
Councillor Jay Dunbar.
My question as to whether or not this was a cost to the town was answered. And I don't think Ms. Dent could be any clearer on what she's trying to tell us. It's just an option for other people who may want to utilize this year type of payment. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And again, from our treasurer, we have a motion coming forward on property tax e-billing. This is moved by Councillor Jay Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Wells. Whereas the town of Blind River is continually looking for ways to go green, and that in an effort to provide cost savings and provide alternative delivery methods for our residents. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorize the switch to a unilingual version of the property tax bill to allow for e-billing of property tax bills, and that given that there are a large Francophone population, staff shall continue to lobby Central Square to make bilingual version available for e-billing as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Questions, comments, discussion? Councillor Posterero, followed by Councillor Wells.
I'll be vehemently against this, as we were just talking about equity and inclusion. It is not an efficiency to deny people of their bilingual rights that are protected under the charter. So I will not be supporting this motion to go to a unilingual billing structure. It's denying our citizens their right to have bilingual representation in their municipal government.
Just before turning it over to Councillor Wells, the motion does say that staff shall continue to lobby Central Square to make a bilingual version available for e-billing. And this was discussed at our corporate services meeting.
But we're stripping the Francophone billing that exists now. We're removing a service to have efficiency.
And Ms. Dent, would you like to comment on that before I go to Councillor Wells and then Councillor Jay Dunbar?
Through Madam Mayor, no, it was a recommendation. It was something that we were hoping to implement was e-billing. We do it for our water bills. For the water bills, it's been in effect for quite a number of years, and they do have the Francophone version available or the bilingual version available. This is new for property taxes. It's only recently become available, and unfortunately right now it is only the unilingual version of the tax bill that's available for e-billing. If council does not wish to support this motion, it will not impact the online payment process. That will still be available through the iCity customer service portal. They'll still be able to log in and see the balance and make the payment. They just won't be able to get their bills electronically. I had to make a recommendation one way or the other. The only way we can proceed with the e-billing project is if council votes to support a unilingual version in the short term until the bilingual version becomes available.
Councillor Plasterero, do you want to respond to that comment?
Yeah, I just, in no way is it the onus on the town or the staff. It's just obviously this corporation doesn't understand the charter. And that service needs to be bilingual. So by supporting them only going unilingually, it's stripping people of their charter rights. So the company is at fault and they need to step up. So, but unfortunately, just lobbying for potential bilingual bills is not sufficient.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Wells, following him, Councillor Jay Dunbar. Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. My recollection is that we had a rather lengthy and thorough discussion of this recommendation at the Corporate Services meeting. And I did express some concerns there. I am aware, as our treasurers pointed out, that we are currently providing residents with a bilingual water bill if they request it to be received electronically. And it's unfortunate this company will not allow us to serve our Francophone residents in French and only provide them with an English version only tax bill. And I think it is somewhat ironic that we recently this evening passed a motion with regard to accessibility, and that this motion, regardless of the Official Languages Act, seems to be not providing our residents with less accessibility. I've been reflecting upon this one for some time, and I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with it. I would probably prefer to see us wait, try to lobby this Central Square to make the change. But I think this evening I would like to ask for a recorded vote on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Dunbar?
The Central Square, are they a company here in Canada?
Through Madam Mayor, they do have offices in Canada, yes, but I believe their head office might be in the US.
Okay.
I do know that it's not just the town of Blind River that is looking for bilingual tax bills. Most of the municipalities in Northern Ontario and some of the staff at Central Square that I have spoken to are also trying to get the bilingual version available.
Thank you, Ms. Dan. Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'll support this motion when they're bilingual, so not tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Judging from, I've heard a recorded vote and I've heard a deferral, and Councillor Summers, go ahead.
I just, I'm on the Corporate Services Committee as well, and I just wanted to just clarify with the treasurer. I think the reason why we were looking at doing this, because it's going to hold us back from doing some other stuff that we're trying to keep going. And can you just clarify that for me again, Sue?
This was This was one of the service delivery review items also, was making the bills available electronically. Until very recently, it was not a possibility for the property tax bills. So like I said earlier, it is a new feature that is now available, but unfortunately it's only with the unilingual version.
Yeah.
I have 3 hands, Councillor Pastorero, Councillor Wells, and Councillor Dunbar.
I think a clear, strong no vote sends the message to the company that will not stand for them infringing upon the Canadian Charter. So I don't think we need a deferral. I think people have their perspective on this item, and the only thing is they're very disappointed with the company for not respecting our bilingual country. So I would say move forward with a vote, and I think it sends a strong message to the company. Yes, we want your service desperately because obviously we want to go green, but we won't stand for the inequity that it's causing.
Thank you. Councillor Wells, then Councillor J. Dunbar.
I'm just thinking, thank you, Councillor Pastorero. I was actually thinking the opposite of you, that I was thinking maybe rather than defeat this recommendation this evening, that we defer it until we can lobby Central Square to move toward a bilingual version of the electronic tax bill, but I'm happy either way.
Okay.
Councillor J. Dunbar.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the same sentiments as Councillor Wells did there. Either way here for me, I'll defeat this. I'm not going to vote for this, or I'll defer this.
So the first vote I'm going to ask for is, could I have a show of hands if you would like to defer this motion? One, I have 2 people. Thank you. Can I have a show of hands if you would like to have a recorded vote on this motion? Okay, and I have 4 hands. So we are voting in for a recorded vote. So I would ask Ms. Scott to call the names, and we will make sure we get those down.
Deputy Mayor Summers,
Not in favor.
Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar,
Opposed?
Councillor J. Dunbar,
Opposed?
Councillor S. Wells,
Opposed.
Councillor J. Pastorero,
Opposed.
Councillor H.P. Roy,
Opposed.
sorry for the order, and and Mayor Hagman.
Opposed.
That's defeated.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion, everyone. And last but not least, on the Corporate Services Committee meeting motions, we have from the Director of Community and Facilities Services, we have a motion from Councillor H.P. Roy, seconded by Councillor Pastorero. Be it resolved that Council authorize the Mayor and CAO Clerk to sign the Lake Matinanda Campground Agreement for the management of Lake Matinanda Landing Docks as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Discussion. Councillor J. Dunbar.
Just one question, Madam Mayor. Are we, the town, legally able to lease out or whatever we're doing here to a second party, considering that this is a LUP from the Ministry of Natural Resources?
And I will turn the floor over to Ms. Bittner for your answer. Karen, I'm not sure if you can hear us. Your screen is frozen.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can answer on her.
Okay.
To you, Councillor Dunbar, I have reached out to the MNR just to reconfirm that situation. There has been no objection given back to us at this point. I can say that there is a land use permit for the other docks as well. They are owned by the MNR and are managed by Mr. and Mrs. Spratt. So there is the similar with the other side of the landing. And,
Okay,
and to remind council too, the MNR was in no way prepared to contribute to the $307,000 infrastructure that the town put into that break wall. They had total hands off on that. They were not interested in that, as would be the docks. So any replacement to those docks, the MNR is not going to contribute any funds towards those docks. So it will be solely the burden of the municipality to replace those docks.
so as a follow-up, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit of a learning process and as this year transpires, with pushback, I'm sure, and hopefully positive outcomes, from this. So I guess it's stay tuned mode for now. We're correct? Yeah.
And are there any other questions, comments for discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. We have no unfinished business. So moving on to correspondence for action. We received a letter from the Solicitor General re the new Ontario Police Detachment Boards. I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that Council authorize the CAO clerk to forward this correspondence to the Police Services Board for the recommendation to Council. Discussion? All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And moving over to make sure we're not forgetting anything, to correspondence. 14.1, we have correspondence from Cunningham, Swan, Carty, Little, Bolham, re the annual Integrity Commissioner report. Are there any questions on this correspondence? And seeing none, moving on, we have correspondence from the Ontario Water Association, re Water Power Day, which is June 20th. Is there any comments, questions on this correspondence? Seeing none. April 21, we have the Blind River Librarians report. Are there any questions on this correspondence? And seeing none, March 30th, we received the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act for Blind Rivers compliance. Are there any comments on this correspondence? Seeing none. 14.5, on March 29th, the Minister of Finance provided us an update on Ontario Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund. Are there any comments on this correspondence? Seeing none. Last but not least, under correspondence on March 30th, 2021, Algoma Public Health gave a news release on Algoma Public Health mental health and addiction services, which are being transferred to the Canadian Mental Health Association, Algoma. Are there any comments on this correspondence? Councillor Pastorero?
I'm just wondering, it looks like more centralization of services with mental health being one of them. So this is going to this CMHA instead of the local health units. Will this impact any of our residents negatively by this move?
The feeling is that this will actually enhance communications. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, I received no notices of motion. So we're on to item number 16, introduction and consideration of bylaws. And I have two. The first one is moved by Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor Wells. Be it resolved that Council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 21-19, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Blind River, to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario as presented by the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services for funding under the Reduced Impaired Driving Elsewhere RIDE allocation for 2020 and to 2022 was passed in open council the 6th day of April 2021. All in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's carried. I have to watch my delayed screen sometimes. I have a motion from Councillor Jay Dunbar, seconded by Councillor Summers. Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 2120, being a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Blind River, to enter into an agreement with Lake Matinenda Campground for the management of the Matinenda Landing docks was passed in open council the 6th day of April 2021. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. We have no addendums tonight, so moving into the closed portion of the meeting, I have a motion from Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Pastorero. Be it resolved that council go into a closed meeting at 8:40 p.m. in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to address matters pertaining to personnel and legal advice. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. And I ask council to leave this portion of the meeting, and we will be reconvening in the closed portion. And I thank the public for listening tonight, and we will be reconvening again after the close. Thanks, everyone. There we go. Little technical problem there. We're getting faster, council. Welcome back, and welcome back to Blind River. I would like to chair the motion from Councillor Pastorero and seconded by Councillor Wells. Be it resolved that council resume the open meeting at 9:14 p.m. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And during the closed session of the meeting, council discussed personnel matters and legal advice. And I have a motion from Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor Wells. Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 21-21, being a bylaw of the corporation of the town of Blind River, to adopt the minutes of the meeting of April 6, 2021 was passed in open council the 6th day of April, 2021. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. And last but not least, I have a motion from Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council adjourn at 9:14 p.m. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.